They've made scav runs way more valuable for sure.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of like making the crappy items that are worth nothing, like have some value, like all the rubbish bags and, as you're saying, the crickets and all of those things. I like stuff having value. I remember back before the hideout was even a thing and playing then, and it was like almost all of the junk you just never even picked up, bolts and screws, and little did we know what was to come. But you just never used to pick that stuff up, and I like having everything having some kind of use somewhere. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
I swear their conference. I swear that they get in their little meetings, and I guess they don't meet person to person because of COVID yet, but they're in their meetings and they go, all right, these 5 items are worthless in the game. How do we make them better? All right, well let's make the army bag craft this, and let's make this item craft that, and this item craft that. And they're like, well, we can't do anything with the lighters. How do we make these worthwhile? Let's remove fuel from the spawns in the game and then throw in 6 barters. I just watch everybody scream.
I wanted to touch on that.
Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on development of the game, patch note analysis, and theory crafting, and a bunch of other really fucking cool shit. I'm one of your hosts, Church.
And I'm your other host, Gigabeef.
And welcome to the show.
Do you want to redo it? You can redo it if you want.
No, I'm this is me.
You can redo it in post.
Yeah, there we go. I'll just have some pixelization going on here and get some AI generated mouth movement.
Take the audio from last time and just paste it straight over, and
there'll be some weird glitch effects going on my camera. A nice little transition to that'd be great.
I love it. Cool. So how have you been? How's it been going? How's Tarkov been going?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good, Pretty good. I've been watching. I haven't been playing Tarkov as much. I think I said it last time, but that's still probably true. And I've been watching more Twitch stuff like GTA 5 RP. I don't know if you fancy that at all. But
I actually really don't know anything about that at all. I've heard about it on the fringes. It's kind of comes from the fringes of my cognition of the internet. I see things about this GTA stuff going on. I've never played GTA multiplayer or anything, so I have no experience of it whatsoever. And I've seen some stuff about RP GTA, but again, I've never watched anything on it. There's nothing to pull me in. You know what I mean? There's nothing to quite pull me into it. But what's it like? Is it good?
To me, once you start, it's maybe the barrier to entry is kind of hard, but once you get into it, for me, Giga, it's literally 24/7 Netflix, because you can watch different characters act out their different roles, if you will, 24/7, because people are always constantly streaming. The one I watch is NoPixel. That's the server, and they have mods to help build that immersion and stuff like that. But it's great. I love it, dude.
But you couldn't do something like that in EFT, you see. So
no,
I guess that's the issue.
I mean, yeah, not. I mean, not to that extent, no.
And not without VoIP anyway.
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
Yeah. So excited for that. We'll see that at some point, I'm sure. But yeah. What have I been up to? I've been going through some of the quests, doing some bit more economy stuff. The Bitcoins is now out of this world crazy. So I bought a second thick case just because I had loads of weapons lying around. So I did that. But I'm actually, it's really funny because I'm quite tight for time just between all the different things I'm trying to do and YouTube and stuff. So I end up you say oh, I don't play a huge amount. I definitely don't play as much as I would like, because of the various things I'm trying to make and stuff. And I end up much further ahead on the economy, and then much further behind in terms of levels. I'm actually still to get level 40. I'm level 39. I am one level away from getting level 40, which is quite frustrating. So I've got to do a few more quests, but I did the headshot tremors and stuff like that this week. But one thing that I did want to open with, which I think is quite interesting. So I actually put a poll out on my YouTube today because I was intrigued, and this is kind of for market research just for me as well. But there's quite a lot of activity around YouTube polls and about people breaking YouTube and about how they post stuff everywhere, and they I think they had a crazy weighting in the algorithm. That's kind of like a discussion point for another time. But I wanted to do some of my own market research, and I thought I will may as well actually post a poll up for it because it's actually quite useful. And so I said to everybody, how is patch 12.9 progressing for you so far? And I sort of broadly split it into 3 categories. Still early stage, less than level 20, level 2 traders, basic hideout. Going okay, hideouts, quests getting there, which is level 20 plus, level 3 traders. And the last one, which is I can buy anything, Bitcoin's at 650, which is like level 35 plus, hideout close/done. How do you think the split would be? And I guess like there's also probably there's also like an inherent bias in terms of the fact that it's like my user base as well. It's like my viewers. And so there is that angle to it too. But what do you think the split of players is?
I mean, my gut reaction is the majority is the middle. That's my gut reaction. And then I'm going to say that the next biggest group would be the last group. And then the smallest group would be the first group.
Well, I'm just going to come straight out and tell you it is exactly bang on equal between every group. It is literally like early stage 34%, going okay 33%, I can buy anything 33%. It is like complete even split between all 3 groups. And there's like tons of people posting comments as well being like, I've finished Kappa, blah blah blah, like I'm only level 8. Like it's the dispersion in the community right now is huge and is much bigger than I thought. Which I thought was quite interesting, and lots of people actually commented on that, saying, it's funny that like the perception of people being that a lot of people are further ahead than they actually are, and that there are still a lot of new players and a lot of there's like literally a third of the people who've commented or voted in this poll so far are under level 20, which is quite a lot. I mean this thing's got like 4,000 votes now, so it's quite a decent sample. As I said, there is kind of like I guess there's some kind of bias there based on the demographics who watch my stuff, but I did mention to somebody there that I was like, I thought it would be more so in the newer player section, and they said, well, it's like you don't always you don't make like all new player stuff, and I was like, actually, that's quite true. I kind of still see myself as like a beginner's channel, but I make quite a lot of intermediate content actually. Which is kind of what the whole point of the poll was, right? For me to take a step back and think about what I'm doing, what people like, what stage they're at. And so this poll is completely inconclusive and doesn't help me in any way. But you know what? That's an interesting data point in and of itself. Anyway, that I can kind of just do what I like and put whatever at, and it's probably going to be okay. I'll just pick my stuff. So I thought that was a great point to open with.
It's pretty interesting.
It's cool, and I think a lot of other people have found it quite interesting as well, just seeing the results of that poll and going, okay, funny. There's someone who was just like, I thought it was so far behind, and now I feel much more chilled and much more relaxed. I was like, oh, good. I'm glad your fears have been allayed.
Yeah, I almost felt like too EFT's kind of wanted like a revolving door of games, because like it attracts new players. They come in, they play the game for like 3 wipes, 4 wipes, and then they kind of like slowly taper off. There's like a peak in engagement at the start, and then they learn everything, and then that peak like stays for a while, and it like slowly starts to taper off. And then the next person comes in, and it's just like constantly revolving.
Are you saying it's like some kind of Russian pyramid scheme? Is that what you're trying to tell me? You continuously need new players in to keep the whole structure supported, so the chads have somebody to
numbers
play
are great. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was that was in there. It would actually be quite interesting to know just how many people start and how many people are still playing at the end.
Yeah.
How people who come back to it, because I think people come back to it mid-wipe as well.
Yeah, I do think there is like a return period, like, I'll check out EFT, or like, especially, I mean, obviously patch for sure, but I mean, me personally, myself, I can feel myself tapered off because I'm probably in that third group where my Bitcoin farm isn't maxed out, but I have a single GPU in there, and for me, that's like, dude, that's just, what is it?
You have enough money, right? You have enough money to do what you want. And I think this is the thing about the Bitcoin farm is like, I like maxing it because I like maxing stuff, and that's my jam. But as I said, like, and alluded to right at the beginning, the way that it's priced at the moment is completely unnecessary in terms of what you need to do, right? Because it's like you're not going to lose your kit and die in every raid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're going to survive some raids at some point, and if you're at that stage anyway, then you're probably like intermediate or all right at the game.
Yeah.
And so unless you're doing
right.
like crazy stuff, you're not going to lose every single time. But having that, I think I mentioned this before, like in the last one, but like having that tailwind of just like, I mean, it's nearly, between all the hideout stuff, it's like over 2 million rubles a day if you do all the crafts and stuff. Like that's a humongous amount that, yeah, you could burn through that in one day, but that's if you died every time, you lost everything, you
Right.
looted nothing, you got nothing back,
There's
right?
a lot of
No insurance, nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of like
money
you know,
printing.
yeah, and you just you survive like 50% of your raids, and then like, oh, you died in one of them, but it's okay because you just buy another kit with the money you've got, and then you survive another one, but you take someone else's kit, but you actually make money out of that because then you don't need to buy a kit for the next one, that kind of thing. And it's just like, the money just is like just like crazy. Like that's the thing. I ended up with like, how much did it cost? I think it was like 12 mil to barter for another thick case or something, and I was like at 26 or 27 already just from like a couple of days, and it's just mental. So I just did that, and then I was like, okay, well, I might as well just buy like 50,000 euros because I'm going to need that later. So I did that, and I'm back at 10 mil again, but it's going to be soon back to 20. Like it's kind of too much. It's kind of too much money. I think this leads into the main question I had about this, which is, do you think that the economy is kind of bust because of the Bitcoin price, and what do you think they should do about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the hard thing of it all because, well, I think I'll answer your question, but the I'm not really entirely sure of the purpose of the Bitcoin farm because, I mean, obviously the hideout in general is there to make you money outside of raid.
Mm,
Um, I don't know. I'll stick on topic, but um, B, they kind of like trapped themselves in a corner because they decided to make the price of Bitcoin reflect the real world price, which is the only thing in the game that reflects the real world price. So anytime that price fluctuates, it's gonna have serious implications because everything else is fixed in the game. Nothing else
yes.
is tied to any outside economy. So I don't.
Well,
And even
we don't think
then,
so. We don't think so. There's like a random side point that I would note that
uh-huh,
the dollar price does actually move around
it does. But
only a little bit.
yeah,
But
are
I
you
am
thinking
intrigued as to
maybe
where
it?
that comes
You,
from. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. I suspect. I've not really done any research into it, but
That
I
would be
suspect.
interesting. That would be interesting. It'd be really interesting too if if the currencies like fluctuated based off like players purchasing them. Like if like the game like people bought a lot of dollars that week, then like the price of dollars increased. Like stuff like that would be super interesting to me. But
Yeah. Well, I don't know what is going on with the economy, and it does seem to have changed a little bit. This is kind of like a side tangent, so just like,
mhm.
stop me if you have anything, any points you want to add on it. But I don't know whether they've added some kind of dynamic pricing back into the game for a bit, or whether they were doing. I just can't believe they were doing it manually. I can't believe it. Right. The one place that I've noticed this is within Peacekeeper and with M855A1, because that used to be really cheap, right? It was like under $3 a round last wipe, the whole
Yeah.
wipe, really, really cheap. It is now, it says $6 on
Mhm.
M855A1. It's like 550 or something, or like 5.5, really, when you go and try and buy 100. But it's gone up a lot, but it seems to be like slow and steady and incremental. And it's the same as like Prapor's 7N31 for the Vector is
Mhm.
also the same, which has slowly gone up and up and up to like 1600,
Mhm.
to the point at which the Prapor price is actually like, the Prapor price meets the lowest prices from the flea, and it's now got stuck there. And I wondered whether they had put something like, I haven't seen this anywhere, but the prices they have seemed to go up. And it's interesting, right? The 55A1 thing is even more interesting because most people get access to that through Peacekeeper first, right? Because Peacekeeper has a low level cap. So all you have to do is smash through his quests and you can get to level 3 quite quickly. So most people buy their first set, at least, of M855A1 from Peacekeeper, and he has a big stock. You can also buy M855A1 from Skier, but you have to be level 4. And you can only get 90. And the Skier M855A1 is much cheaper.
Yeah.
Is much cheaper than the Peacekeeper is now. And it used to be kind of about the same. It used to be very similar. Whereas now the Peacekeeper one is very expensive in comparison. It's like double the price.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I exclusively buy the Skier one every time.
Yeah, same. And I buy it every single time I see it off cooldown. Like every time. And I'm just filling a box with it.
Yeah.
Because at some point I'll go through like, I'll have a proper M4 session, go through like 500 rounds. And I don't want to be like scrabbling around trying to buy it. So I don't know. I suspect that there's something funny going on here. And it can't be like the old, Salewa Pestily inflate the market and then dump it again. I think they might have put like, 0.00001 in front of whatever algorithm they've got that's deciding the supply and demand situation. I don't know. I just can't imagine that it was them directly. I feel like it must be in the system somehow. I don't know. I haven't figured this out, and I haven't seen anybody else talk about it. And so I'm just kind of sat here on my own, just like, is this the machine? Is this Nikita? What's going on here?
I mean,
and I don't really have a good conclusion for it at the moment.
For me, I feel like personally, I think it's manual because 2 reasons. One, from what I can recall, I remember the prices changing. Specifically 7 and 31.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it changed like twice or 3 times before it reached that price, and like 1,600, and then it stopped. And then B, I feel like you would see more items reflect that, unless maybe they only got it on certain.
See, this is the thing. I was thinking like maybe they've only got it on certain things that like literally like just sell out.
Yeah, that could
like
be
maybe it only
possible.
triggers if it goes completely sold out. If it doesn't sell out, nothing happens. If it completely sells out, then that's then it does something. I don't know. This is like pure speculation, like of the purest kind, because I'm not sure. But yeah, it's interesting, and I just don't know whether. This is the thing, right? It's like 7N31, I get it. And I can totally buy that they manually changed the thing because they tweaked the vector like 4 times in 4 days. They were like 65, nope, 75, nope, 85, nope, 95. Okay, that'll do. Whereas like 55A1 has been in the game for ages. And the fact that only Peacekeeper changed and Skier didn't is like, would they make that tweak? And it seemed to be like, again, a few, I don't know. Maybe I think it could be either way. I'm not sure. Maybe they did make that change. Maybe they did. Maybe they are looking more closely at the balance than. But like, why would they do that? I don't know. It seems strange as to why they would do that. Anyway, what was I going to talk about next? Oh yes.
Well, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Before
okay.
You go
no,
deep,
go for it.
Our guest has arrived, and yeah. Something came up, they informed me, but they're here and they're ready to go. So if you would like, we can go ahead and just pop them right in.
Yeah, we could give it a go. I haven't got the thing set up, but that might be okay. Does he want to come on video, or does he just want to be a ghost voice?
I'm gonna pop him in real quick.
Oh gosh,
if I can figure out how on the fly.
Well, this is going to be this is gonna destroy my thing, I think.
Yeah,
because I didn't set it up before.
We'll make it work.
I might be distracted playing around with it.
It's fine. When I do this may disconnect us from the call, so we'll just rejoin the call in Discord. Have fun. Okay. I'll catch you later. All right, there we go. We're good.
All right.
Yellow.
Okay,
hey,
so that's
what's up?
My cameras, but that's okay. That's okay. Hey man,
how's it going?
It's good. It's going really well. It's going really well.
There we go.
Let me see.
Good to hear.
Oh God.
How's the kid doing?
The kid is doing wonderfully. She's doing wonderfully. She's very good. She takes up a lot of time, but yeah, she's fantastic.
That's what they do.
Right, let me see if I can fix this. Oh gosh, is this going to be too difficult to fix? Oh boy, Church. Well, so long as you're good, it doesn't like mine doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you're trying to fix stuff as well.
Maybe. All right.
Ewing, have you been anyway?
Yeah.
Have you been?
Busy.
Yeah?
Yeah. Good, but busy.
Everyone's so busy. Everyone's so busy these days. So what have you been up to? I see your channel has been out of control.
That's what
Absolutely
I've been up to.
crazy. You are
to.
killing it, my man. You're absolutely killing it.
Thanks, dude. It's a beast. It's one of those beasts that the more you feed it, the hungrier it gets.
Yes, that definitely that definitely is true, and I don't think it gets better. Right, I'm just trying to fiddle around with this thing. Oh dear.
I saw you last night, AirWing, playing that new game. What's that game called?
Valheim.
Valheim? Yeah, I saw you were pretty late.
I've called my lawyer, and he's going to I'm going to be suing Bargy for getting me involved in that game.
What's it even about? What do you do in that game?
It's Minecraft in Vikings.
Oh, I see. So it's
And
Minecraft
instead of like 1990s graphics, it's about 2006 graphics.
Okay, so a little bit of improvement.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Not much.
I really just can't I can't have something like a Minecraft-esque thing take me again. I really can't.
And this one's even worse than Minecraft because it actually has a PvE story and everything.
Oh my goodness. Don't do this to me. I think like Minecraft is probably my I actually didn't even talk about it that much. Minecraft is probably like my most played game of all time. Genuinely. I think it's more than any other game. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. So is it good though? So you say it's quite addictive.
Yeah, there's a word. That's one word for it. One of the crazy things that really, I'm just trying to get my lighting in here, right, guys? Don't mind me. One of the things that really kind of caught me off guard about it is that it's got like the structural aspects. You know, like those real cheesy 2D bridge games where you got to build a bridge and the structure's got to be just right, and if you do them wrong, they break.
Oh yeah, a bit like World of Goo or something like that.
Yeah,
it's that kind of thing.
So there's a structural component that's that simple, but a little bit more complicated in there. So you can't just build like a stick out forever. Like if it goes more than so far, it breaks and falls down, and then you got to put a support to it. And so that's the part that's the part that sucked me in, was just the building the base, which I think is why the only reason Bargy brought me in was he needed somebody to help him build the base.
Well, it sounds good. I've seen a lot of people who are playing it. But like I just don't have time. I don't have time. I wish I did. I wish I had time for it, but between everything else, it's just it is just too much. It is just too much, unfortunately. Such is the life of a part-timer.
Worst lives to have.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Church. Have you got anything on the plate you wanted to start off with while I try to multitask desperately with my kaleidoscope that has ended up being... The chat's calling my my overlay a kaleidoscope at this point because it's become fractal in some way. I think it's pretty busted.
Yeah, take your time. Yeah. So how's it been going, AirWing? I mean, you want to talk a little bit about your growth and just how things been? I saw the other day that Battlestate retweeted one of your videos.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, man. It's kind of one of those things where a little bit of a perfect storm last month and in December, even with the brand new wipe, the Christmas discount and the October what was it? October there was a discount. I think there's just an unbelievable amount of new players in the game. So combine that with doing guide content, and basically I made a video every day. I think I did I didn't make a video a day, but then I do a video every other day, or 2 videos in a day. So I cranked out a video every day for probably a little over 2 months. I haven't made a video in like 3 days now because I've been working on a couple that are really hard, but those factors come, and then just like Church knows, you get on a roll with some content on YouTube now and again. Or I'm sorry, Beef knows, you get on a roll with some content now and again. The subs just come rolling in. So we were having, it was crazy. We went into December with, I think, what was it, 3,000 subs, something like that.
Man, that is crazy.
Yeah, and like,
and I think we're 19. I think we're 19. We'll be 19K today, or pretty close. So I mean, we had days where we were picking up 500-600 subs a day, 800 subs a day, 900 subs a day. Tons of support from the community. It's been amazing. It's been awesome.
Yeah,
it's super cool to see the growth you've had. Like, to put in as much effort as you do into the videos you put out so far. I mean, like, I think I've watched like most of the videos you put out daily because they're so useful, and no one else is putting out that kind of content. And it needs somebody who's like, looking at it every day, is going to go through and like tabulate everything, and it takes a lot of time, which is why a lot of people don't bother. And so bringing that out is just fantastic, and it just shows, right, if you catch on to something that's of high quality and high value, it can just completely explode your channel like crazy. So I think,
like we were saying earlier, giving a beast, you're feeding a beast, and the more you feed it, the bigger it gets and the hungrier it gets, which is a good and a bad thing, because you get in this grind where you're like, you feel obligated to keep up with it. Like I think my last video was Monday, maybe Tuesday that I did, and I'd have to go back and look, but it
gets a bit crazy. Like, because I was when I was doing mine, I was making like 2 a week for ages, and then when the baby came, like I was just talking to my wife about it, and she was just like, "You can't keep doing what you're doing." I was like, every evening, just like frantically making stuff, and she's like, "Then this isn't going to work, right?" And I was like, "I know it in my heart, but I don't want to admit it." And I went down to 1 a week, and it has an impact on growth, right? But like, it's fine, and I can manage, and it's okay. And I think you got to you got to know where your limit is too, because there's so many people. It's actually crazy. Like, the more that I've like researched other sort of bigger creators and that kind of thing, like the number of people who get like burnout after doing it for a couple of years and stuff is quite scary, actually. So you've got to
it's most of them.
Yeah, you got to be really careful. You got to be super, super careful, because it's like it's like your own business, but your business is people watching you. And so you can get like super obsessive. It's like even worse than just running your own business, right? It's like, because that's kind of secretive and people don't really know what you're doing. Whereas like being a content creator, it's like
you put yourself out there.
Your product is you being out there, and your metric is how many people are watching.
Well, I think a lot of people that they see being a YouTuber or a content creator is this super sexy way to get rich, and they don't realize how much fucking work it is. After doing this for about a year now and really, really working hard at it for, 6 months, the amount of respect you have for really big content creators, because you understand what it took to get there and where they're at now. It makes sense why you see these videos of Summit cracking and going off and yelling at people, or, the respect I have for guys like Shroud that just do it day after day after day after day after day. And I mean, they're huge and they have support systems and shit built now, but they didn't always.
Exactly,
you're looking at guys that are at the top, and it's still a road to get there. And
exactly.
So it's a whole different perspective.
They had to get there somehow. It's
you're talking about your wife giving you a hard time. My wife was like, she's like, you quit your job so you didn't have to work as much, and you work more now.
But it's like, it's working on something you want to work on, right?
But I'm home.
Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. So, and it's like, sometimes you need that other person to, I think I'd drive myself crazy otherwise. Like having somebody else to just be like, look, this is the deal. take a step back and whatever is actually quite important. So,
Yeah.
and my wife's super supportive about it. She's very, very good, even though she's a complete like non-gamer, but she like totally gets it, and it's good. It's good. Yeah, I remember sorry, go on.
How about your family? I think that's one of the funniest things that I get now is I'm pretty sure my grandma and my dad think I sell drugs. Wait, you make money doing what?
Yeah,
so Google writes you a check. Yeah. I don't
it's
know
a weird
about
concept,
that.
right? It's a weird concept.
Especially for
weird
people
concept.
that older generation, they just don't understand. I mean, I didn't really understand it up until about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
to be
I think
honest.
like my parents are pretty cool about it. They've always been quite interested in the stuff that I've been up to, I guess. So we've always been quite close family, actually. I'm quite lucky in that respect. So they're pretty cool about it. And my sister used to do like a bit of streaming and stuff. She still does actually, but it's kind of more on and off. And so they've kind of like eased in by that. So it kind of makes a lot more sense for them. It makes a lot more sense to my wife's dad, he's just like, I don't understand this. Why would anybody watch anybody else playing video games? I don't get it. But more power to you.
Yeah.
So it's just it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. A little bit more of a tiptoe into the shallow end versus breaking like the Kool-Aid man like I did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember seeing what I was going to say before is I remember seeing talking about respect for other creators is like landmarks, like year-end like Twitch report thing, and it was just like the number of hours that man put in, and you literally divided it by 365 and the number was 12, and it was like,
that's crazy.
Dude literally streamed for half of 2020, like straight 50%. Like I don't understand how he did it.
There's people that work, like lawyers and like the construction industry I worked in that don't do that. They don't even come close.
Yeah, it's mental. It is mental. But yeah, anyway, congratulations on your success so far.
Thanks, man.
Tarkov stuff.
Church, I mean, we didn't mention it, but Church has been a part of that ride too here the last month and a half or so, 2 months, whatever we've been. Can't remember when exactly we started, but Church has been doing edits on the video, the funny edits instead of the guide content.
That's true. That's true. I saw some of them. They're cool. They're good. They're good. Yeah. I like it.
He's found himself to be quite endeared by Liston too. It's been great.
Shout out to Liston, by the way. Catch you in the next video, Liston, if you know what I mean. Good stuff. Well, we were just talking about some Tarkov economics, if you will. And where were we at, Gabe? We were talking about the Bitcoin farm and Bitcoin. Unless you wanted to branch off to something else. I know you had some notes you wanted to.
Yeah, I had a few notes, but I mean that was kind of like loosely related anyway. I think we were talking about how whether the Bitcoin farm kind of like breaks the economy completely or not, because like right now I was in a church, like because of like I have a little bit more limited time, I end up like much more weighting myself towards like econ and then less so on actual like gameplay, just because I don't get as much time to play given all the YouTube and all the other stuff and this and whatnot. But 50 cards, you basically get like 2 million rubles a day to do whatever you like. It's kind of like playing on creative mode, you can just buy what you want and you can go where you like and you can do whatever. And actually, just to precursor this, we talked very quickly, I'll skim over it for you. We talked very quickly about a poll that I put up on my channel today about where various people are in the various stages of the game, like how are they progressing past 12.9. And I basically split it into 3. It's like early stage, less than level 20, going okay in the middle, like 20 plus for level 3 traders, or I can buy anything Bitcoin 650. What do you think the breakdown would be between those 3 categories in terms of the player base? Well, I guess in terms of my channel viewership. I
would have to say, and I haven't seen the poll, I haven't seen the results of the poll. Like 25-30% on the bottom, maybe like 15-20 in the middle and the rest at the top.
See, I stretch the same question. It's exactly 1/3. Precisely bang on in each category.
That's crazy, dude.
It is crazy. It's like 34, 33, 33. It's nuts.
Wow.
It's like, and that's like, we've had 4,000 votes so far.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's crazy how equal it is. It's actually crazy. So I was surprised that there's actually not as many people kind of at the top level of the economy as you would think, despite the price of Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. Because the thing is, like, once you start getting your farm up, it kind of powers itself. And I know that, I know the cards are expensive, but at the same time, you get one card in and you get 650 rubles every day. It starts to become a massive tailwind.
Oh yeah.
I know. What's your thoughts on it? I mean, I think that it kind of like, well, right now maybe it's not a problem because of the demographic split, but I feel that it's at some point it just makes everything, it just removes the economy completely. You just don't have to worry about money at all.
So I think saying it's game breaking depends on your perspective of what the game is supposed to be.
True.
Right. For guys that are old school to the game, or even played before the most recent wipe in May, I think about the best way to describe it is it breaks the game because of how much money it puts into the game. I mean, you log on at the start of your day. Let's say you're just an average dude, and you come in and you log in once a day, and you've got 1.8 million rubles sitting right there. Most people in a day don't get that out of all their raids, unless they get lucky and find a LEDX or whatever. But I mean, look at what it's done to some of the loot in the game, right? Graphics cards. I was laughing about this the other day because I can't remember what the hell it was I sold. I sold something that was worth like 350K, 400K on the flea market. I was like, holy shit, that's what graphics cards used to be worth. And graphics cards are, I haven't looked yet today, but they were pushing 1.2 mil the other day.
Yeah.
And I think they're still going up. Wouldn't be surprised. So I don't think it breaks the economy. I think it just changes it. It shifts it. It makes everything more expensive. The funny thing about the Tarkov economy is, simple as it is, it's still got some pretty complex things going on with how prices react to things, and especially now the BSG's playing around with dynamic economy events with fuel shortages and shit like that. And you're seeing meme items like the cricket lighters go to 15,000 a piece. The things I still don't. I make videos about keeping those things, and I still see them and run away. And chat's like, there was a cricket. Go back. I'm like, oh yeah, no, you're right. I've played 14 months and never once picked one of those goddamn things up, and now they're worth more than tubes and other stuff, and phased or not phased arrays, but relays. And so I think that's the bigger thing that it does, is it puts, for those of us that have the perception of where we were used to seeing like 12.5K per slot is like for my cutoff for loot. Like someone's got to be worth 12.5K or I don't pick it up. Whether and that's usually with armor or guns or whatever. With all this money in there, people have more money. You don't necessarily have more items. In fact, you have less because the spawn rates have been reduced. And I'm not even saying that based on some Reddit post or what anybody said. I'm saying it on my real world experience in the game. You can see it. When you run 500 or 600 raids in a wipe, which I think I'm almost 600 now for this wipe, you have a pretty good basis to look at it. Reserve loot is definitely way less. Filing cabinets. I looted 8 filing cabinets the other day, empty. And they were empty. Every one of them was empty. And it's not like they were looted already. It was, 2.5 minutes into the raid on a place where nobody else could get under reserve before me. So you can see the loot's been reduced. And everybody talks. There was a little bit of complaining about Bitcoin farm being slowed down a little bit compared to what it was last wipe. But at the end of the day, hang on, guys. Sorry, my amazing wife just brought me food and coffee.
Fantastic.
So I'll set that there. So you're still getting 2 or 3 times in the same amount of time out of your Bitcoin farm, even though they've slowed it down by, I didn't do the exact math, but probably 20% maybe, from 5 hours to 6.87. So it has had a drastic effect on the economy. I'm not going to say it hasn't, but it's just a matter of how you look at it. And I think all it's done is just made stuff that used to be really cheap, really expensive, and shit that, is really expensive, even more expensive.
Yeah.
It's just shifted everybody's perception. It's inflation, I guess, is the most simple way to put it. It's inflation in the game.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm interested, off the back of that point, why some of the items, like, well, given the amount, maybe it's just literally the overall total amount of money that some people are doing super good. If you push the GPU farm early and not enough people have gotten there yet, but I'm still quite interested as to why things like slicks and hexes aren't more expensive, because to me they look relatively cheap compared to like the end of last wipe. But maybe it's just because the total amount of money in the Tarkov economy hasn't got to that crazy level yet. They're like 300-ish K, right, which is really not that bad for level 6 armor, I didn't think, anyway.
Well,
So there's I'll go ahead, Church.
I was just quickly say, I think it really depends on where you personally are in the progression of the game. So, like, for example, the Zabralo armor is, if you can get it down to 50%, it's worth like 6 mil in the flea market. Because that is like a gate of progression. You cannot go past that quest unless you get this item, and it has to be a certain percentile, and it's super rare. It's like only spawns on like Rashala guards, and that's not like because the item's valuable because it's like classics armor. It's just like a quest gate item, and that used, I think it was like 3 mil when I was playing, but now that inflation's factored in, it's gone up.
Yeah,
so like
it's no joke.
The inflation.
I ran halfway across customs basically naked because I found one of those and it was zeroed because I shot. I didn't realize the guard had it, and I shot him. I ran across the map with wearing that thing because it was worth more than my entire gear setup.
Yeah, it's insane, but it's like, it's kind of, I guess it makes sense just how Tarkov is, but it's it that's just where the money goes, is like these sort of like roadblocks and progression on these items that you need.
100%. And it's funny, some of the things they've gotten out of the way of that, right? Like Listen, I particularly loved getting the USEC flannel because it was hard to get. You had to get a bunch of. I was from the day one of the wipe. I was saving Cordura and everything else so that I could turn it in. And then they make a craft where you can literally not even the Cordura crafts, which that's a big part of what I'm going to get into, Church, about asking Beef answering your question here. But they leave out you can now craft paracords, which the only reason to craft paracords with the craft they have built, it's not a money making craft. It's designed to allow you to have found and ready to turn in for that Ragman quest, Textiles Part 2, I think it is. But they don't do a craft for the pilgrim. You know, the paracord is required to do a task that doesn't matter. It's not a kappa task. It doesn't gatekeep anything. The pilgrim one does, and so does the Zabralo one. Now you can get Zabralos through barters, but you got to have level 4 Ragman. Or get lucky like I did and kill some poor bastard on factory using M61 and a SA58. Found a zero. That's how I got my zeroed to get it turned in, as I had his, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm keeping this in my inventory for the next week until I get to that task." But the two things with the high end armors, I think, Beef, that I see that again, my personal opinion to it, but is the barters are insanely cheap now.
Yeah,
because Cordura used to be 60 to 80K. And you can do it. You can get it all day long for between 15 and 18 now. And if you can't, you can craft it for what is it? Flipping 8K, I think you can craft it for. From level 1. From level 1, you can make one. And so it's the same thing with the AACCPs, right? The AACCPs were really expensive because the barter was expensive. And that's kind of where that price hovered. Always was really within, 10% of those barters is where the price of slicks got, until you got to like the end of the wipe or some kind of big event happened. It's not like the spawns got any larger. You don't see them all over the place like you used to. It's just people that want them can barter for them, and there's a barter for the hex grid too, and it's not too bad. In fact, it's made a couple of useless items a lot more expensive. The Harry Potter sunglasses and the ski mask with holes and Ushanka are all maintaining a higher price because that's what they're buying those items to barter for that hex grid.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It makes sense actually. Yeah, because like if you can get those cheaper armors, then like why would you pay 600K for a slick when you can pay 200K to get like a level the best level 5 rig in the game?
And that's the other side of it. I think it's like your poll puts to it exactly. the only reason to wear, especially with M62 getting a nerf, there's like three rounds in the game right now that level 6 matters over level 5.
Yeah.
In a substantial way. Obviously, a level 6 is going to eat more rounds than a level 5 will of certain types of armors. But at the end of the day, you're running around. I've been loving level 5 this wipe. I run Zux and or not Zux,
Killa?
Zabralos, Killas, Karuns. Level 5 is my go-to armor now mostly because of the 9mm ammo. People can shoot you with that 9mm ammo and you just laugh at them.
Exactly. I mean, that's the same here, to be honest. It's I think I run Tactec pretty much every raid at the moment.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part of it, is the Cordura being cheaper, and there just not being the demand. It's on both sides.
I even want to say that they changed the barter. I think it used to be specifically the slick one. It used to be like 3 troopers, and it was like I swear they changed some of the
I'd have to go back and look, but I think you're right.
I think they made it better. Before they added the Khadora craft, they made it better.
They changed so many of the barters.
Yeah.
And they were doing tons of changes last wipe too. As things were insanely cheap and easy to get a hold of towards the end of the wipe. And I say that, October, November timeframe, just because we were in late game and a lot of these items are pretty cheap on the flea market. These barters were insanely cheap, so they'd tweak them and blow them up. They did like when they nuked the 8R barter and completely nuked because it's not even in the game anymore.
Sad.
I mean,
Much sad.
They eased us into it at least by making it harder to do, but then they just completely removed it. And it was like, oh man, because you can just buy the 8R now. That's what it is. It's not a barter anymore. You just buy it from Skier.
Yeah. That made me very upset.
I
don't know why. I just don't know why they did that. I just feel like, especially when they changed it, it was just like, oh, we'll just make it more expensive than it would be if you bought it yourself. And you're like, okay, why? And then they're like, oh, now we'll put it to 45k, which is like, all right, fine. As a player from between level 1 and 9, you can buy it for 45,000, and then when you're level 10, you can now buy it for 22k instead from the flea market, because that's where they actually go for.
I'm not going to say it was my fault because I wasn't the only one who did videos on it, but every single low-level barter that was a barter for cash kind of deal that you could barter and sell right to the vendor and make a little bit of money on, every single one of those that's a low-level one, and I say low-level, I should, that needed level 2 or less traders is gone.
I think it was the sum total of the whole community, because like I had a whole one as well, which was like one of the favorite ones, which was like how you build an M4 for 30k, which is like, don't bother buying them off the fleet, because I think they were like 55k back then. I was just like, nah, you just buy the barter, get the lower, put all the stuff on, sell all the rubbish back, and then you basically get it for 30 grand instead. And it's just got a very slightly worse MOA on the barrel.
I don't dare do another video like that, because the only 2 that are left are 2 of my favorite. I don't want them to go away.
I'm really, really, really sorry. I'm literally putting that video out tomorrow. And I'm very excited about it. This is probably my favorite video I've made in a long time. I went way overboard. It's 35 minutes long, which is way longer than I normally do. But I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it.
As long as the content's good, the people will eat it up. That's what matters.
Well, let's hope. Let's hope people like it. I like it. So I can't always say that about them. So
what servers do you play on again?
Me. all
just
of the.
In case I need to go find you to make sure if you break my PBR barter.
You'll find me normally on one of the London servers, I suppose, but
lucky I can't connect to those.
Exactly.
I'll pay somebody.
One thing I like about the new barters they added is specifically, I guess, on the slick and like even the paracord craft is like a lot of it is like scav gear, like the duffel bag, the round glasses, the mask, all these items like you can spawn in as a scav and you can extract, and like you know what I mean, it's like they're helping out the guy that maybe is struggling that like has to scav in, you know what I mean? That part I like.
They've made scav runs way more valuable for sure.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of like making the crappy items that are worth nothing like have some value, like all the rubbish
Right.
bags, and as you're saying, the crickets and all of those things. I like stuff having value. I remember back before the hideout was even a thing and playing then, and it was like almost all of the junk you just never even picked up, bolts and screws, and little did we know what was to come. But you just never used to pick that stuff up, and I like having everything having some kind of use somewhere. It's good.
I swear their conference. I swear that they get in their little meetings, and I guess they don't meet person to person because of COVID yet, but they're in their meetings and they go, all right, these 5 items are worthless in the game. How do we make them better? All right, well, let's make the army bag craft this, and let's make this item craft that, and this item craft that. And they're like, well, we can't do anything with the lighters. How do we make these worthwhile? Let's remove fuel from the spawns in the game, and then throw in 6 barters. I just watch everybody scream.
I wanted to touch on that. Because I think the fuel shortage is probably the biggest kind of like in-game sort of event that's happened in a while. And I think it's really exciting that they're trying these kind of like, supply pressure events and this kind of stuff. I think it's firstly really interesting just to see what happens. And secondly, I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for people to have to do something different, or to have to think about what they're doing and question, is it worth doing X, Y, Z, rather than just like mindlessly, cranking the handle on the hideout and all this stuff. I think it's that's kind of what we play, or it's what I play Tarkov for anyway. It's the thought process. And once you kind of got it all figured out, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of comes automatically. Whereas if it's suddenly just like, right, fuel's now 300k, it eased a bit, and then it seems to have gone back. So I'm not. Is it going to end? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on.
So here's what I chalked it up to, and I don't know if they changed the spawn rates or not. I don't think they did. I think the spawn rates changed, and what happened is the weekend shows up, your player base increases by 5 or 6 fold. Between Monday and Thursday, and between that and Friday and Sunday, right? So you have a shitload more people running around, and they're bringing more loot out of the map, because you see it pretty frequently with stuff. Anything that you see it with, so stuff that people can't craft and can't make, or that you have to pull out a raid to sell. That's the only place you can really find it. That stuff gets cheaper on the weekends. Yep. Stuff that you can craft and make gets cheaper on the weekends, and stuff that is used to craft the popular crafts gets really expensive. That you can't pull out a raid gets really expensive on the weekend. So, for example, you see things like matches get cheap on the weekend and then really expensive during the week, which they are. I was doing some testing last night and I was paying 30,000, 30,000 for packs of classic matches, because I was doing craft and red gunpowder to test something, and I was out of matches, and I needed to do it. I couldn't wait for the matches to get cheap, and streamer problems and all. But the things like graphics cards, right? They leveled off. They were on the steady climb, and I can see it. I watch all the stuff on the charts. I watch it pretty closely. And then Friday rolled around, and you saw a little dip, but it leveled off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then as soon as Sunday evening hit, the graphics cards started back on their climb back up again. So that, I think, has a huge part to do with the fuel prices calming down a little bit over the weekend. Is just, you just had a shitload of people. The first panic was driven by people. You had all these people unlocking their level 2 and level 3 generators, which means they had extra slots than they needed to put fuel in them. They were burning through their fuel and didn't have it stocked up. So you have this huge, massive, it's like the toilet paper at Costco. It's exactly what it was. Everybody panicked and started buying, and saw the price of fuel going up. So they just started buying and buying and buying and buying. And there isn't enough people putting fuel on the market. And then that time frame lined up with the weekend, and you had all these people going through interchange and customs and bringing fuel out and selling it for 230, 300, 350K, depending on what it was. And that brought the prices back down, because then everybody also had their fuel and didn't need to buy it, or weren't buying 3 or 4 of them at a time. They were buying one of them a time a day. And now Friday rolled back around again, or Sunday rolled back around again, and boom, you see this fuel go on this huge, crazy uprise. Now, I guess BSG could have changed the spawn rates in that period of time. It's totally likely. They've been monkeying with stuff like that on a daily, if not weekly basis since the start of the wipe. But for guys like me, it doesn't. it's more just interesting for me to watch. It doesn't affect me because I can buy my fuel from Jaeger. So I just buy my one can that lasts me 60 hours now. And
Exactly.
once a day and I'm good.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do as well. And I think, it was kind of, again, it was that thing of, I think both me and you did something very similar. I had something written down which I was just like mulling over, which was about how Tarkov's kind of an interesting, like the wipes are kind of weird because like obviously the game's developed and stuff's changed and there's different barters and things have changed in the hideout or whatever. But like broadly speaking, the game is the same. The quests are kind of the same. The things that people do are sort of the same. Each wipe sort of rhymes with another. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And I think me and you as kind of the players who we bought like a ton of graphics cards really, really early.
Yeah.
And I spent like a majority of my money on GPUs early. And I think I had 18 before I even had the Bitcoin farm, which I bought between like 150 and 200K. And so people who did that had a huge advantage over other people just because you got them so much more cheaply and had them so early. Then you're printing out Bitcoins that are worth more than they have been in any other patch, and it just is like a self-fulfilling thing where you just end up filling your own GPUs, your Bitcoin farm with GPUs that you've got the money from getting the early Bitcoin farm in the first place, and it's not very expensive because no one else is doing it. And it's one of those interesting things where it's like if you kind of know what's coming because you've done it before. It's almost as if you got to just like wind back 3 years in the stock market or something, and it's
Right,
like but it is a bit different. You're in a different country or something, but the same like broad macro things are happening, and you can kind of like make a good guess as to what's going to come. It's a very interesting one that like experienced players have a much huge advantage over newcomers, I suppose.
Yeah.
And if you pay attention to the market, you can tell where the community as a whole is, where they're at in their
Yeah,
hideouts,
that's so true.
what quests they're on, which groups. I don't do it anymore because most of the population is through the quests. That big wave of people is, and it's kind of filtered out now, so you don't see these spikes. But for example, I got to think here. When everybody started, I saw AKMs go through the roof, right? And I was like, all right, everybody's on their Punisher task line. Guess what? I'm going to start because SVDs were selling for 45, 50,000 a piece. I was like, if I find a found and raid SVD, I'm going to hang on to it now for about a week or two, because in about a week, everybody's going to be on that task. And guess what? SVDs are now selling for 80K a piece. If you find them in raid, and that there's so many places where you can see that in tasks and quest lines. The gunsmith are always pretty expensive, but obviously at the start of the wipe, the items on that, despite doesn't matter how many damn videos I make, people still buy those things for 200,000 rubles instead of 3 batteries. I'm still going to sell them for that amount of money. I don't get over much over like 100K. I won't sell something for 200K because it just feels too dirty. But you can see the progression of the game in the economy, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of cool to watch that. Okay, everybody's obviously got done with all their relays, because instead of relays being or light bulbs and things like that. And like you were saying, history repeating itself. You get into a new wipe, all right, this thing isn't going to be worth money for like 3 months, so I'm just going to sell it. I'm not even going to pick it up. This thing's worth a ton of money now, but in 2 weeks, when everybody gets to they're trying to upgrade level 2. The bolts are a prime example. You've seen them come back down now. There was nights where they were selling for 60,000 a piece.
Yeah, crazy.
And they've come back down a little bit now, but now you see screw nuts up at 30K, where they were cheap for a while. And it gives you a pretty good idea of where everybody is in the game by watching that stuff and seeing where the economy is exactly. And I've always wondered how close BSG's got to have so much more access to data than I do. We're just looking 100%. At, basically rough recordings of stuff. They've got to have every data point in the game. They've got to know exactly what everything's doing. And, how much, like if I was ever to get offered a job at BSG, that would be something fucking cool, is just be the guy that watches the market and yes, Mr. Burns, and fucking changes shit around. They're like, oh, they think they're going to make money here today. Okay, well, let's change this barter around, and or modify this loot pool. And I that's why I got so excited with the whole the dynamic economy thing, because it's like daily quests, right? On our weekly tasks on Call of Duty or whatever. I think Battlefield even had them. Where you've got this task for this week, and if you get it, you unlock this skin or whatever. But they don't need to do that. But they can do daily or weekly tasks, and you get money or some kind of item reward or whatever. And the economy fits into that. A dynamic economy fits into that. A fuel shortage and what it does to everything. I didn't shut off. I had not shut off my hideout in over a year, and I was shutting it off 3 weeks ago because I was running out of fucking fuel and I didn't want to spend 300,000 on it. And that was the first time I'd shut my hat off in a while. That made me think, holy shit, this is the possibilities of how they can really affect the game with the economy, and make certain loot spots on maps insanely. There was that when fuel went through the roof, you could straight and not even get touched walk through all the tech spawns and interchange. But if you went into all, you better be dressed you better be dressed like you're going to labs if you go into all.
That's so true, actually.
I love it. It's great. I think one of my favorite, like the random side effects of all of that, which is like kind of inconsequential, but the fact that they just added pineapple juice into that therapist bar.
Oh my God.
Pineapple juice just absolutely ripped. That was one of my favorite things. I was just like, damn, you better not drink that. Like,
I looked like a genius because I had like 7 of them in my
no
my
way.
I just been keeping them. Some weird runs where I had food or water and I threw them in there. I sold all 7 of them for like 55, 60K a piece. I was like, what the hell?
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. I love that. That really was very, very fun. That was very fun. I've enjoyed it. Look, I've really enjoyed it. I really I love what they've done with it. Yeah, what was I going to talk about next? So there was something about like the find and raid and the whole crafting system. I think like you put something out on it, but I can't actually remember what your view on it was, which is about how many more crafts they're adding that allow you to just like skip over the quests. And I'm not sure how I feel about it at this point. Like I feel like personally for me, it's good because I'm not that keen on some of the quests and it's easy and I can just kind of make the thing and ignore them. But it's a funny one because they feel, I don't know, adding finding raid and all this stuff. They want people going into raid to find these items, but then they kind of give you a shortcut. It sort of almost feels like counter to what they're actually trying to achieve, even.
Yeah, I went into a lot. If anybody wants to watch it, I'll do a shameless plug. Go check out my YouTube channel. I did a video on it. But like a milk toast fence sitter, when it comes to a lot of this stuff, I try to just stick with the facts and keep my opinion out of it too much, because my view of the game is completely different than somebody who is, an everyday weekend player. And I understand that because I used to be one of those, or not an everyday weekend player. And the way they view the game and how frustrating the game can be for stuff like that, it took me 10 raids to do it. And that's a day of playing, maybe a day and a half, depending on when it is. Whereas somebody else, that might be 3 weeks.
Yeah.
To get through a gate kept item. And so my approach to it was is I think that they should make crafts for these gatekeep items. They should be in there, but you shouldn't just get them by upgrading your hideout. One of the ideas I had was, for example, the BlackRock craft, right? Because that one can be tough for people, especially newer players that don't know where to go find them or don't recognize them right away when they see them on a scav and might overlook them or not chase somebody down to get them. The task for Jaeger where you have to kill Rashala's guards. You kill Rashala, and then you have to kill Rashala's guards. That task should unlock if you've done that task, you should be able to craft BlackRocks, in my opinion. Because you've gone into raid to do it, you didn't get it, so you've killed Rashala twice now because you had to kill him once, get out of raid, and then go at him again and kill him again. So there's 2 times you've got it, and if you haven't got the BlackRock rig, now you should be able to craft it. And you could do that and you could make, we were talking about making reserve awesome with tasks. Instead of just being able to, magically as this tier 3 operator, sure, you can shoot a gun and you used to work for this BlackRock operation and be super cool, getting in the lore of the game. You're not going to know how to put a CFDM together. How complicated a military transmitter is. You're not just going to put that together with some screwdrivers, fucking, batteries and circuit boards. But maybe if you go in and you find one that's broken in raid, like the golden task item, right? Mechanic makes you go in and or Peacekeeper makes you go in and find one in raid that's broken in a specific spot in reserve, or it's got 4 or 5 spawns in reserve, and it spawns in these specific locations, then you got to get out of raid with it. Now you can craft it. And the same thing with the vertex and the graphics card. And I mean, I don't know about you, I couldn't put a graphics card together from, CPU fans and processors and circuit boards, and
No shot.
not even make it look like one.
I remember somebody, I can't remember where it was. It might even have been on Reddit about, I know someone had just like visualized the point at which you hand over this like handmade, like, brown parcel taped defibrillator to Jaeger to complete one of your quests. And he's just like, what in God's name is this that you've given me here? Yeah, I mean, it is quite crazy, right?
Masking tape on the front of it that just says defibrillator.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a bit strange. I wouldn't actually mind if there was some kind of blueprint for these, in the kind of the same vein as you said, right? It's like you have like a blueprint for some of the crafts that you don't have to, you can't just like get them instantaneously. I know there's so much stuff that needs to be rebalanced around this. There's so much. There's so much. But yeah, in the way that the game is constructed at the moment, that would probably make more sense at least.
Well, and you see it in your chats, both of you guys do on YouTube. People come up with some really good ideas with stuff. And and have good perspectives on things. And one of the guys brought up is, and Clean talks about this a lot, is the way we see the game right now is not what the game's going to be in a year. I mean, look at where the game is now compared to a year ago.
Yes. It's very different.
A year ago, this time last year, I was buying F1 grenades, 340 at a time and selling them for, 2,000 rubles higher.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I made all my money in the pre-wipe.
And that isn't even, it's not even something that's even contemplated anymore. So I hate to get people too spooled up over things but it was a good topic to talk about. That was more it was just to get people thinking and talking about the idea of what does making everything found in raid do for the game. Okay. It makes it way harder because now you got to actually get out alive, that whole found and raid system they instituted. And then you go back the other direction and basically make it to where you can just buy all the components and craft everything. I mean, there's only like 5 tasks in the game now that you can't craft things for. You literally can craft everything. I mean, almost the T-plug craft. I saw that T-plug craft is one of the ones that just blows my mind the most. It's like, okay, I can understand some of these other crafts, but T-plugs, are you flipping kidding me? You don't need to craft. You can get them in raid. They're in filing cabinets.
Yeah, I don't know why they even added that one, honestly.
For the collector task, that's the only one that's got to be, or whatever one it is, where you got to turn in like 5 T-plugs found in raid. But
it's just strange because this never really a problem.
I don't want to complain about too many of them, but that one I will complain about because that task is easy. There is no reason to make those, and that's where I kind of see that idea of make some of this stuff craftable. And in the big picture, the T-plug craft doesn't really make sure. You take a power cord and you cut the thing off and go, here you go, here's your T-plug. And what does it matter that the guy that you're giving it to, whether you found it in raid or you made it or whatever, and that whole argument. But the idea of it is in the gameplay, right? The whole point of these found and raid items is to push people out into the world and make them go places they're not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
People that won't go to Shoreline because they watch videos of like me running through and killing 5-man KS-23 squads, those poor bastards. And they're like, nope, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want anything to do with that. That resort is full of people like that. And it is, you look at guys like Liston or Baked Jake or, some of the other big streamers. If they don't go labs, they go Shoreline because that's where you find the good PvP. And, but they have to go because if they want to get their found and raid athletics and get that juicy thick case, they sure should. It's either that or labs, boys. It's either that or labs.
Exactly. That's it's very, very true. Yeah, it's just a strange one, right? It's like we're always considering, what the game looks like now and trying to see what things should be different around the system we have now, all knowing in the back of our minds that it's all going to be completely changed.
Right.
Like I was kind of thinking about the barter system as well, and just in terms of some barters are useless and some barters are really, really good. And I always felt like maybe it was slightly controversial, but I really wouldn't mind from a game design perspective if the barters could only be done with find and raid items, because then it would mean that you could. Then it would mean that you could make the barters like cracking value. You know what I mean? Like they could be really, really good value, But you wouldn't just be able to go like buy the stuff. It's like it's very similar to the way you used to be able to buy from the trader and put it straight back on the flea market that you said before, right? Like buy from the flea and then give it straight to the trader is for the barter. It kind of like undermines the whole purpose. It's just an extra step in doing the barter trade, and then something that's kind of like connected to trader level, and that's about it. Whereas if like you actually had to find the things, it would mean that people would save the stuff. I think it would be better. I don't know. I think it would be good.
Watching some of the other podcasts out there, I think Veritas hits the point on the head. I don't think his solutions are quite right. Well, maybe they are, but when he says that what's happening now is they took a system that was designed to do something completely different, the found and raid system, and have bastardized it and piled on top of it. So now you have this hodgepodge, duct tape, chicken wired thing together, using a rule base that was never designed to go this direction. And I can't remember if it was, I don't remember who it was. I don't want to give bad credit to somebody. It was one of the podcasts with Pestily, or one of the bigger podcasts, some of the bigger content creators, but they were talking about, multiple found and raid systems, right? Like you had found on boss, found in raid, crafted, and so like items that you, like the Black Rocks, for example, right?
Like, where did you get the item? Like
exactly.
A tag.
So like if you got out a raid with something from Killa that was marked off Killa, whether it was his armor, his helmet, his gun, a magazine, it didn't matter what it was, that would suffice for that quest. You got to turn in Killa's helmet to right. So you guys could go in as a 5-man, kill Killa, everybody takes apart, a helmet. And this was Veritas that said this specifically. So, and I did like that idea, multiple levels of found and raid. You can't sell shit on the flea market unless it's found and raid, period, right? Like that check mark's there. But then instead of trying to apply that specific scenario to so many different things, multi-layer it, give it other stuff. Certain crafts, not all crafts, but certain crafts, like if you're doing something for tasks or something really, really valuable like graphics cards, some of the stuff has to be found and raid or crafted.
Yeah, and it makes sense.
Crafted would be another checkbox, so you couldn't, like, let's say, one of my pet peeves, you can't craft green gunpowder and then turn it into BP. You got to find found and raid BP, or you got to purchase it off the flea market, things like that. I mean, you wouldn't know exactly how that would affect the economy without testing it. Which is why I don't get spooled up personally. And I try to tell everybody, calm down when BSG changes something that completely blows the market apart. It's like, guys, relax. They're testing. This could lead to something amazing. This might suck. This might really, really suck. But what comes out of it, the baby that comes out of this idea, could be absolutely like Jesus for the game and completely change the way the game works.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think like me and Church have spoken before about this, as saying we kind of wish that they'd do this more. That's why I was so happy that they did the fuel thing, because I love it when they try stuff and test stuff, and that's kind of the whole point of this, right? And they've kind of like ended up in this weird situation where they're like, well, we want to try stuff, but then people complain so much. Now we've made this test server as well to like try and figure out whether we can test things, but sometimes you want to test stuff on the main branch, and it's like it's all a bit strange. Like I'm all for them just doing whatever and just like it just going crazy. I mean, it's supposed to be, criminalized wasteland in the sort of aftermath of, complete closure and an apocalypse. Yeah, we seem to have some kind of like fully working, high latency trading system to buy items from each other. It's very strange. I'm all for, the flea market. Maybe it's just like something happens and it breaks. It's gone for a week.
High bandwidth internet that you can run your Bitcoin farm off of.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. I'm excited about it.
I mean, it makes sense. Fuel shouldn't be something that's readily available, like you're saying, right?
Exactly.
You look at any dystopian movie or representation of what it would be like after that, and fuel. The only thing fought after more than fuel is food and water, which I think is awesome. I think that was one thing they did and made, and people are annoyed by it. But you know what? The game's supposed to be fucking annoying. Yeah. Sorry, Church. I know it's not my channel. I get carried away with the language, but the Viva La Dirt guys, their video about getting dick punched, that is going to be forever ingrained in my memory is what Tarkov is. And that's what it is. And that's what the people that really, really love the game, that's what they love about it, is that it punches you in the dick. It hurts. When you come around a corner because you're not checking corners right, and that fucking pistoline with a fucking shrimp shoots you, head eyes you with, $2 million worth of gear on, and you saw him as you're falling over, and he still had the Timmy clothes on, and you're just like, ah! And the only person's fault it is you, because you were just lackadaisically walking around corners and not clearing properly. That side of the game is what makes the game amazing to me. That it hurts. Call of Duty, you could literally just, I picture Homer Simpson with the bird, and this kind of dates me, but that episode where he works from home and he gets all fat and wears the moo-moo, and he just has a little bird that dips and hits the button to discharge the nuclear waste kind of thing. Like, that's what Call of Duty is. You could like tape your W button down and just lean back and run around with your mouse. And, every time you die, you're just charging W at shit.
Right.
The investment in your character and not wanting to die is the best part. It's what makes it such a crazy game to play, and what makes it such one hell of a drug. Like, and even no matter how much gear you have, money you have, whatever, like, it still sucks to die with like 1 million rubles worth of gear, right? It's it always sucks. It always sucks to die to that guy with the TOS, or that the scav with the buckshot.
And when you play Call of Duty and you kill, like, if you're playing duos or you're playing a team and you have some sick play and you win the match, that sense of victory is gone in 30 seconds, right? Just gone. But Call of Duty or in Tarkov, even to this, it happened a couple of days ago. I killed a 5-man in Resort, and I got done and I settled, and always making sure there's not one more. And I'm sitting there serving and healing, and I have to get off my keyboard. And my hands are just, the adrenaline's there. It's legit, dude. And the adrenaline's there. And I don't know of I can't remember of any other game that's ever been like that consistently. There might be games you play, like the first time you played Call of Duty way back in the day on Xbox, and you invaded Normandy Beach, and how insane that game was, and in its time frame. But that was it. It was done. This game, right. I've been playing Tarkov for 14 months now, and it doesn't matter. I still get into situations, even if it's like crazy 1v1s where you get in this insane fight with somebody you're counterflanking each other, and you're pushing each other with grenades, and you're pushing each other back with grenades, and you're catching reloads, and you both run out of ammo at the same time, and you look at each other for a second, and you both run away from each other so you can reload, and all that shit. You get that adrenaline rush.
100%. I think like the two places that I've had something similar, and this is the thing, like, it's not as consistent, and I kind of have this sort of mental map of the way that I've seen this these kind of games moving. Like, the first one was DayZ, but there's such it kind of it generates that by the virtue of having such a long period of time of inaction between things happening, and so when stuff does happen, it's like that much more critical, and you also most of the time get surprised by it. But there's a lot of downtime in DayZ, and then the other side of it, which is the PUBG way, right, which is like nowhere near the same until you get kind of into like final circle kind of level, and then like I used to get the very similar thing.
Yeah 100 true. And Warzone does the same thing with Call of Duty.
And but it's interesting because like I've always spoken about kind of how DayZ is really kind of like, because it's quite a pure, like DayZ is quite a pure game, right? Because you can it's all in sort of real time, and the servers continue on after you've left and that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a closer sort of approximation to reality. And then you can kind of take it two ways. Like there's one spiritual arcadey way that you can take it, which is the PUBG way, where you force action with the circle, or you can take it the Tarkov way, which is a completely different way that I'd never really thought of until I saw the game, which is about the whole timer, right? And so you have to get out of the raid in a certain time. You don't actually have to engage people, but you can go and do what you like, which is the thing that I love about Tarkov, because you can kind of choose how long or short you want the raids to be. You can kind of decide what you want to do. Whereas something like PUBG, if you're looking to win, right, you're going to have to play for 45 minutes. Whereas on Tarkov, you can just play factory, and it's like at most 20 minutes. You're probably going to die within 3 minutes, or survive for sort of 5-8 minutes and then leave. So you can. It's really like, it feels a lot more free and sort of up to you. But I think because of the fact that they've managed to somehow kind of concentrate we're going to go on a raid into a hot area from DayZ, and then abstracted, which is Veritas's favorite word, but abstracted all of the other bits of the game, all of the we're sat around in the forest like cooking on campfires and like organizing our stash, whatever. You have that like just in menus instead, and so it like it shrinks the game down to the important parts, keeps the element of risk, but makes a more consistent experience that makes you feel as though you're about to have a heart attack every 5 minutes. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be bad for our health.
Dude, my kids are starting to learn it too, because my door is right here to my right, and I'll be sitting here, and it'll be some place where they can, and I know they can see me. I'll be crouched down and I'm creeping around, and they recognize it because they see it too. They'll be like, "Oh, Daddy's sneaking around and doing this," and my 4-year-old will come up to me and go, "Daddy," and I'm like, "Jesus." So I mean, to me, that's a great pleasure of the game. And it wasn't just Tarkov. We might have talked about this before, but I do have a deep love for this game, and I will go to bat for it when people attack it unfairly. I think the devs, Nikita and the team he's built, have a gem of a game right here in front of them. And I have a lot. I have probably twice the experience of most players in video games, just because I'm fucking old. And the experience of seeing the games over the years, and ones that are built and ones that are good and ones that are not. This game is truly unique with what it is and what its potentials are. And if you approach a game to play a game for what it is and not what you want it to be, you have a lot more fun with different types of games, right? Yeah. And you don't hate on it. There's a lot of guys that want Tarkov to be more Call of Duty like, and there's guys that straight play it like that. I watched, I rated Mr. Nyhouse a couple of days ago and watched him for about 45 minutes to an hour. Just watched him play and actually picked up some tips watching a guy just because of how aggressive he plays, and some things you can do to really catch people. You don't have to play aggressive like that all the time. He does. I mean, that kid, I was like, dude, how is your vitality level 20 already? Because he's higher than mine. And then I realized he yeets himself off of buildings every fucking 3 minutes. He's like a handicapped Spider-Man. He's a Spider-Man without webs. He jumps off the building and just hits the ground. And it works because he uses it he gets some crazy flanks on people and uses grenade and abuses Tarkov's screwed up sound system and stuff like that. But, watching how so many different people can approach the game in so many different ways and be successful. I mean, if you look at the top 10 streamers, and I don't even know who all 10 of them are, but say, Pestily, Landmark, Slush Puppy, and the list goes on. I don't want to offend anybody by not naming them, but I don't know a single one of them that play the game the same way.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you go into the guys that play really aggressive like Landmark, what's his name? He plays with Landmark quite a bit too. They're absolutely he did that grenade video on him and Landmark went in with like 400 grenades on labs and just fucking blew everybody up. It was like having GLs before GLs. But those two guys are very aggressive players, but their play styles are very, very, very different. You get guys like Hyper Rat or Liston or myself. There's just so many ways to play this game. And that's what you were talking about, Church, or Beef, is the ability to play the game the way you want to play it and still be successful.
Yeah, it's great. It really is good. It really is. It really is so good. Man, I love Tarkov.
I fucking quit my job because of it, dude. I was kind of trying to get to that, but this was the game that pushed me. And dude, I like this game enough to create content, because that's what you really have to, in order to create good content, you have to love what you're doing. If you don't like the game, you're not going to make good content.
I think the thing about it, right, is that there's an endless pool of stuff to talk about. I've never felt compelled to try and do this before, right? And I played lots of other games, and it was only really with Tarkov that I thought, there's actually enough to say. There's enough to do. There's enough of an angle, because I actually really like teaching people anyway. I kind of always have done. But what am I going to teach somebody about PUBG or Call of Duty or whatever? It's kind of more just like game experience, and you just play and you get better over time. And there's some stuff that you could learn. But again, I'm no pro, right? And so it's a lot of those games are more like aim mechanics and some cheeky spots of map knowledge, that kind of thing. Tarkov is a whole other ball game, right? It's the whole money making element, the strategy of it, how to get better, all the systems in the game that you need to learn. It's a complete the depth is just insane, right? You have like guys who are commenting on the poll that I put out being like, I'm level 20, I still feel like I've only played 10 raids, and feel like I'm doing all right, and I've played 200 hours so far. And I'm like, you only feel like you scratched the surface after 200 hours. It's like bonkers.
You want one of the most awful experiences I can explain as somebody who gets Kappa and gets everything finished up, and you get playing, and then you get playing end of game style gameplay, which is basically you put on whatever gear you want and run around and have fun, is what I chalk it up to. Create a new account and fucking try to go run through customs with that. Well, I guess the starter gear is a little bit better now, but try that. Go try that. Go try start a new account now.
It's tough. It's tough.
And
it's
even get across the goddamn river in customs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter with it how much knowledge you have.
I started to dabble at the end of last wipe with hardcore, but I ended up not. I sort of like ran out of time a bit, and so didn't end up doing it. So I did like probably 10 raids or something, and that was super interesting. I did actually want to ask you about it. Like, what did you think about hardcore? Because that kind of I would really, really love, and I've said this in a few places, that I would love to have 2 accounts. I would love to have the normal account, just keep everything the same as is, but I would love there to be a hardcore account where there is no traders, there's
server
no
where the
flee,
rules were set up for hardcore.
Nothing.
It's a whole server, so you only matched against, because like it's okay playing it yourself, it's fine, but I would really like to be playing against other people who are also running the same rule set. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be playing against other people who are.
Idea.
I think it would be sick. And loads of people are like, oh, but it's going to split the player base and stuff. I'm like, look, we already have like 7 maps and stuff. Like, I mean, really?
There's 10 players on a goddamn map. There could be 500 people playing the game.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it would be cool. And I actually had a lot of fun in the short amount of time that I did hardcore. And like, hopefully if I get enough time, I might revisit it this wipe. It was so much fun. Like, I ended up like leaving one raid with a heavy, what was it? Was heavy bleeding even then? I think they just brought heavy bleeding in. I had like left a raid with heavy bleed, and I was like, guys, I have no way to heal this at all. And I'm like in my hideout, just like, I'm gonna have to try and find it. So I'm like, right, okay, we'll go to customs, we'll go to crack house, just like sprint there with the bleed on, try and find like a slayer or something, S-March, whatever.
It's great.
Like it was wild, right? And chat was like right behind me all the way. Right. And like, I mean, it creates its own narrative, it creates its own story, because things happen that are difficult to fix. You like you make a mistake, and then you're like, I'm really stuck. And then I have to like create this like, elaborate plan to try and repair the thing that, the situation you got yourself in. And it's kind of like, it creates this narrative and this story, which is actually really, really good. I think that's the one little element that Tarkov misses sometimes, is like the storytelling element, which you can do, but I don't think that the game necessarily like naturally lends itself as well to it as it could if they had some extra elements like VoIP and a few other things that people have mentioned previously. You have to sort of try a bit. You have to try a bit to make it work.
Right now is the 3-man squad that came behind you and followed a blood trail for like 600 meters, wondering what is this? Is there a dead deer running through here?
Yeah,
like your heavy bleed from your spawn all the way up to wherever you're going.
Exactly right, and it's that kind of thing that's just that's super, super cool about it. Yeah, I had a great time, because it's like you're trying to like the thing that I really miss about the early game, and people always say the early game is the best, and it's like the early game is you're basically playing hardcore, and I've argued this as well, is one of the reasons why the game is so hard for new players is because you've got traders at level 1, they sell you complete junk, you have no flea market, you can't, like, you're basically playing hardcore, you can only use the things you pick up, you can only use 10 round mags for proper like 7.62 AKs, you can't even get the 30. So to try and do some kind of gun build, you have to pick up random bits of pieces and like stick them together, like stuff from your scav or whatever. And I actually, like, the first time that I managed to put together a gun just out of crap that I'd found in raid, I was like, man, this is good. I like it, and it was that feeling of just like trying to make do with what you have found to put together the best build you can just out of all of the junk. Felt a lot better than just kind of like buying all the parts for a gun build off the fleet, which is cool at first, but it runs, I don't know, it runs thin a bit. You just kind of take it for granted after a while, and it's not as entertaining as it was. Like it's okay.
Totally changes the game. It changes the game.
Yeah,
the game is a different game when you get to that stage of the game. Your reason for playing is completely different than what it is before.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe that kind of gets lost like too early. I still feel that they could keep the game like broadly the same as it is now, but there's things like, and again they say it's a beta, they want people to test it, so they want everything in the game. I get that argument, that's fine. But if you're looking at it purely on a gameplay mechanics, things like, I don't know, things like the Vector, you probably would want it to be much more scarce than it is now. Like I've always had this like harebrained idea about some of the trader quests where it's like, I think the Mark 18 actually probably comes closest to this. Like I've not even used that gun yet because I don't have it unlocked, right? And you can't find it anywhere. But to have like a weapon like that, imagine if it was like it was only found in raid, but only the parts.
You, sir, are missing out on a great deal of fun. Let me just tell you that right now. The first thing you need to do on the next time you play is go to the flea market, buy that thing, because it's only like 150K off the flea market.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the expensive part is the rounds. They're like 30,000 a shot. It's like
I looked like a while, but I haven't looked for ages. And I looked a while back, and there were zero. There were none. That was a while back.
There is nothing quite like shooting a 5-man with thermals with the Mark 18, because as soon as that first shot rips loose, you can practically hear the fear in them. When their first friend falls over dead, and you hear that, and all of them go in different directions. There's no, like, I swear to God, they're throwing grenades at each other and shooting each other in the legs just to slow them down, so that I'm shooting at that one and not the one trying to run away. The fear and discontent in people when you do that is, especially when it's your own teammate.
That happens.
But anyways, I'm sorry to steal your thunder on the idea. I agree. They things like that to make stuff more valuable, like the grenade launcher or the Mark 18 or, the Vector. I mean, the Vector is one of the most advanced submachine guns in the world.
Yeah. And
you could buy it for level 2 skier for a while. It's like, come on, guys.
Now it's skier 3, right? Like it should be, I don't know. I don't want to like block stuff off, but at the same time, it's like you should probably only be able to like, you'd have to like do some special weekly task for skier, and you get one a week. He has to order it specially.
There's one other thing, Beef, that I think about like this, that I think is going to change things up quite a bit with the guns, which is why I don't think they do some crazy stuff with gatekeeping guns. Is the jamming system when it comes out, malfunctions and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how much experience either of you guys have with firearms, but if you slap a 60-round mag into a M4 that's suppressed, and you try to shoot that whole fucking mag through there and then jam another one in there and shoot another one, you ain't going to get through it. It's going to gum up on you. The amount of suppressors with how much they affect firearms is pretty dramatic. I've there's going to be a lot of balancing that comes in when they institute malfunctions, when you have high cyclic weapons, especially suppressed ones. I don't know if the Vector has an issue with that or not specifically. I don't know a whole lot about it in real life, but things are going to change a lot with with the guns people use and how they choose to use them. Because anytime you shoot a weapon at high cyclic rate, you introduce all sorts of issues. If you dump 4 60-round mags back to back out of an M16, there's a lot of issues you're going to face, including heat, that are going to be a problem. And I think that is going to bring in a very, very interesting balancing perspective into the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but I had some ideas in my head about like, if it was me, what would I do? And because I was thinking about this, right? And there's like a lot of games, and you can even look to a game like Fortnite, right, which has the same gun but different variants that are better or worse than one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, a completely different system, but like along that same vein, what if every part had a durability?
Right.
And what if the traders, like the level 1 trader AKM is like a piece of crap, and it starts off at 50% durability, but you could like find ones that were like much better, right? And then it would actually make the flea market more interesting, because like kind of everything would have a durability. It'd be like armor, right? Armor on the flea market is a bit weird because stuff isn't like directly 1-to-1, because like, oh, this one's like 56 and this one's like 48, and they've got different maxes and stuff. So armor's like, I quite like the armor, like the armor dynamic on the flea, just because it's a bit like, well, I could get this one and repair it, but then this one's new, but it's like 50k more, and this one's got like a lower max HP. Like if they had something like that for weapons parts too, because like suppressors clearly would get destroyed much more quickly than other pieces, and some pieces would take more durability damage than others. Maybe you wouldn't need every single part to have a durability on it, but at least the critical core components of a weapon, and you could potentially do it that way. And then it would give you the ability to put something in raid that was really valuable, like a 100% durability whatever, right? That maybe you couldn't actually buy from the traders. The traders will only sell you 80% durability stuff, or I don't know, because it's all secondhand gear. I don't know. It's just like I'm trying to think of like ways you could put things into the game that like that are properly like in raid, that makes it worthwhile going in raid and finding it rather than just buying it from the trader.
Amazing idea, Beef. That is an amazing idea, dude. Because things like barrel quality, firing pins, ejector pins, things that are the actual pieces of the inside of the gun and how they wear down and how they affect, guns that used a lot, or, it would make AKs amazing again, because it doesn't matter what durability, those things will shoot forever. Yeah. Whereas so will M4 platforms, they just need to be babysat a lot better. They need to be maintained really well, and if you don't have the ability to maintain them, they are going to jam like crazy on you. If it's raining out, if it's shitty weather, all of that stuff has huge effects on how guns function, how well they function, and what you can do with them. And if they could find a way to institute that into the game, individual partner abilities, you'd find somebody's M4 on the ground and you'd think twice about throwing it out. It might not look that good, but he could have a brand new bolt in there, or brand new, and you'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna. And like you said, you don't have to do it with every part. The durability of the stock doesn't matter, but the wear parts in the gun are a big deal.
Yeah,
and it would be and from personal experience, my 8R, it's an 8R. It's a M&P 15. It's an M16 civilian version, M4 kind of deal. But I've got over 10,000 rounds through it, and there's parts on it that are wore out now, that it doesn't work super good anymore, and it makes some weird noises when you shoot because the buffer's going, and it's serious. And I haven't got the new parts, because with things lately, it's kind of hard to get parts for guns, especially specific ones. And I don't shoot it that much anymore because I'm kind of lazy with it. But that's what I'm thinking of when you start talking about individual parts being wore out, and how that does affect the gun, and how cool that would be, the dynamic that would add to the game. Plus, it would be great for content creation.
I just think it would be a nice thing to kind of like stop all the parts being the same. It would give you some kind of control over like the variability of the drops, and also because I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about this for ages, right? And it's like, how do you make looting stuff worthwhile? And you think of something like, I always hark back to some other games that I've played before, like Diablo 2, and what makes people go and run bosses over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And like, there's rare loot drops and all this kind of stuff, but the items themselves have roles, right? So it's like this this legendary item, maybe the top tier, but it's not the best thing if you end up getting the bad roll on it or something. It can have 5 to 15 on this stat, and it can have 10 to 20 on this stat, and if you manage to roll a perfect like 15-20, then it's worth multiple millions, and if it's at the bottom end, then it's worth nothing. This would be kind of a similar system coming to Tarkov, where you can a 100% durability piece would go for way more than something that was even down to 80 or 70. And it would allow you to put more variability in the parts, and give the game a little bit more variety, which I think is good.
Like skeletonized grips, like the durability of those, instead of being plus 13 ergo, it starts to wear down, and it's 10 ergo and 5 ergo or whatever.
Oh yeah, you could even have the stats change as it slowly wears down. Well,
they kind of do already, right? So when a gun wears down, its accuracy lowers. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but the MOA is greatly affected by how repaired the gun is.
Really? I never noticed. Learn something new every day.
So you could apply that in different aspects, like as certain parts on a gun wear down, it's more likely to jam. So again, you get into that future mechanic in the game. But you might pick up this, try to think of a gun you'd pick up off a scav. Like, let's say you pick up a some kind of AK off a scav, busted AKM without a stock on it. But the the barrel's in good shape, but the bolts are beat to shit. So you go and you get a new bolt for it, and all of a sudden, instead of this gun jamming every third or fourth round, now it shoots real clean. Things like that could make, oh god, you're
It'd be so cool, dude.
You're really tickling the taint of a gun nut right there when you start talking about stuff like that.
It'd be so cool. I would love it. Because I think like one of the biggest problems that I have, and a couple of other people have always noticed this, is that like I always end up with like tons of money because I focus on my economy and my hideout and stuff, and I don't really do that much looting. I'm like notoriously bad at looting, and chat is always just like, you've missed this cache here and there's a thing there, and I'm just like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. And like other streamers come in and they're just like, I think it's Shifty who's always just comes in and he's like, I don't know how Giga always has so much money because he never loots anything. Like and I just kind of like, it's because I just don't feel like it's worth it half the time. I'm just like, and I get lazy with where the spawns are, and like, I'll go and loot some stuff, but it's like when you have the hideout,
you can't lose it if you don't spend it.
Exactly. So if you're careful with your budget and you've got decent economy, then it's good. But it would be, I do think some more stuff should be kind of like finding in raid only and not be able to be bought from the flea. But I don't know. I think that's I think the reason why I like the idea of the vision of the way that they want to do it, and I don't feel like the current implementation of the game sounds like how they want it to be. And so I'm always trying to think of things that are going to be sort of align more with like what Nikita's kind of said about how he thinks it should look, and how we implement that.
And that's the hardest part. Like I do not envy their job because I feel like they're constantly in like a battle here, like struggling between pleasing the current player base, how the game currently is, with like the flea market fund, rate system, the economy, the balance changes, and then you have like this future vision, which just completely blows all that out of the water. Like they apparently you have to go to a physical trader to buy items. That's like an insane, that has huge implications on like the economy and how that will function. Like maybe all of a sudden pineapple juice will be like insanely valuable because you got to get your fuel because you got to bring that pineapple juice to therapist wherever she's at. They have such a hard job. I do not envy them at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff that they've talked about when they change it, how even one little thing. I mean, you look at one thing, they will talk about changing weapon jamming, or and completely separate from all the other changes they want to make, whether it's weapon jamming, whether it's interconnected maps, entering labs through factory or customs, or streets. Sorry, I guess is what I meant more. Or the modular armor system they're going to come up with, and you're going to have 5 times as many hitboxes as you have now. Every one of those changes by itself is completely changing to the game, and there's still a dozen of them out there that they're going to do, or that they've talked about wanting to do. The game is going to be completely different.
Lockpicking,
and that's one thing I try to remember. Yeah, exactly. There's things that I can try to remember before I get too spooled up about a change they make, because that change they're making now could mean absolutely nothing in 6 months. It could be completely meaningless.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think it's a very, very, very good point. I mean,
it's tough.
Yeah, I think like the game as it is now, and the raid systems themselves is going to be put into question by open world. But again, nobody knows what any of this stuff means, because they haven't said exactly how it's going to get implemented. So it's very hard to speculate.
I think if I understand what they've said, weapon jams is the next thing they're coming out with. The armor system got pushed back, and straight to Tarkov, and it sounds like the very, 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 very baby step foundation of open world is coming with streets, where you got to go to factory to go to streets to go to labs, or whatever the path was for that.
Right. They're going to gatekeep labs and maybe reserve, and that's it.
Which maybe is a good thing, because then you won't have Flicks running around level 1 2 hours into wipe because they killed some raider.
Right, exactly. Or you run into a level 2 running on reserve with a pistol. Like, this is supposed to be one of the most dangerous places in the game, and you got a guy running around naked with a pistol. No, that's not how this works. What you were talking about, Church, right there with I think one thing that I missed, that I don't know why they took it out, but I don't know if you guys remember, but backpacks used to have stats.
Yes.
They used to have,
I remember
stuff with like debuffs and stuff.
Yes.
Yep. So bigger backpacks debuffed you more than little backpacks.
Mhm.
You know, there is absolutely no reason. There's 3 backpacks the exact same size right now, right? The Scav backpack, the MBSS, or not the MBSS, the Berkut, and then the new black one. I can't remember what it is. Those 3 are all exactly the same size. There's not really any difference in running the 3 of them.
Yeah.
So, and from what I've heard from what Clean's talked about, there is going to be very, very drastic changes to the backpacks and how they work, and the stats they provide, and what certain ones can hold. Kind of like the med backpack can only hold meds.
Interesting.
Like things like the mechanic backpack, you know, those slots are only going to be able to hold certain things. And there is advantage to running some backpacks over others, right? Like if I'm doing a lot of proning and laying down for Shooterborn and Heaven and stuff, I'll run a tri-zip. That's all I'll run because it's skinny, right? It doesn't stick off your back like an Attack 2 or a Beta. But aside of that, there's no consideration other than looks. But Clean had mentioned, and this was a long time ago, about, you know, when you've got a backpack and you're overweight, it's actually going to affect your recoil. Like you'll have less recoil because you're heavy as shit, which makes sense. You know, if you have a 50-pound bag on and you go to unleash with a fully automatic weapon in real life, the concept is you have more mass, therefore recoil affects you a lot less, which is true. Yeah. But and so there's going to be all sorts of stuff they're going to do with backpacks and different gear, just like they have with armor, that I think is going to be really, really good. You know, when you start in making things like backpacks a choice, literally every item you have to pick into a raid be an effect on how you get in and out of raid. You know, how much ammo you carry, what magazines you carry, having more of an effect than just 1 point of ergo. You know, all that stuff can matter because some mags can fit in certain rigs and certain can't. You know, for example, like a 60 round DMAG. I can show you guys right now exactly what can I do this real quick?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'm intrigued as to what's coming.
So here's something right here, right? This is a rig. This is a plate carrier. So this would be like a slick, but with pockets on it, right?
Yeah.
This is a PMAG. This is just like in the game, a regular non-windowed PMAG, right? Mm-hmm. It goes right in that slot. That's like a two slot right there for a mag on a rig, right?
Yeah.
Goes right in and out. If you try to take this is a D60. This is the same D60, right? Takes up 2 slots in the game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wait till you see how stupid this looks.
I think people have spoken about this before, about how like those mags just shouldn't go in there. Even the double, even the double shouldn't go in.
Yeah.
So
looks pretty awkward and clunky. Yeah.
I don't even know of a carrier that can carry a mag like this. Like this is something that you would have in your backpack.
Yeah.
Like this would be what was in your gun when you went into a raid, and then you could switch to one of these, but you're throwing this thing on the ground or you're putting it in your backpack.
Right.
You know, it's not the idea that you have a rig that you can put a fucking drum mag in and it sits on your chest. Have you ever seen a drum mag? You look like a pregnant woman.
Yeah, I think too they even said stuff like the jamming on the drum mags are going to be a lot more higher chances of jamming because it's just the way they operate. That's how it happens.
Pretty good. That's about the only drum mag I've ever run that doesn't have a jamming issue. But again, it's brand new. It's super clean. You get one of those things into a field environment, and they are nightmares. That's why the military doesn't use them. That's why they don't use them. They are feeding, jamming nightmares. And anything that's a high cyclic rate weapon, that's where LMGs come in. That's why you have belt fed.
Yeah.
That's what they're for. That is why there's a difference between those. You know, in Call of Duty, it's just seen as a reload animation, right? It takes longer to reload a belt fed. Well, the reason you have a belt fed is it's generally open bolt fed. And I won't get into all the super details about it, but there's very specific mechanic reasons behind jamming and overheating and stuff that why you have a belt fed weapon versus a magazine fed weapon and the trade-off that you have to choose there. And right now there is no belt fed weapons in the game that you carry.
Yeah.
And you could. There are man operated belt fed weapons, an M249, for example.
Yeah.
Things like that are belt fed that are smaller man portable. But as far as the storage and the things like that, I think there's some work that could be done to balance it. Like, I mean, you guys saw right there how ridiculous that was. You shouldn't be able to have a rig that can quickly switch between 60 round mags. I mean, could you imagine the freak out of the player base if they made it to where you couldn't do that anymore?
I mean, everybody would just go crazy, but at the same time, right? It doesn't really make sense the way that it is now. And should the 60 round? I'm not a huge fan of the 60 round meta anyway. Just as like a game design, from a game design point of view,
Well, there's no
I think
like,
it's a bit like,
yeah, sorry to cut you off, but it's just like there's no. It's like the choice. I mean, they've tried to like cut it back, but there's no really thought to it. You know what I mean? There's no like depth to it. It's just like,
have you ever killed have you killed a vector recently where there wasn't 50 round mags on the person? Like if I run the vector, I won't even put the stick mags in it. Why run the stick mags?
Yeah,
they take up the same amount of space as the 50 round
pretty
drum.
rare, right? There's no like.
Whereas if you try to do something, you institute something like that,
right?
Think about how much that changes an M4. If you can't, you can only put 160 round mag. Otherwise, you're changing out of your backpack, which is just slower, right? You can do it, but if you can only put drum mags in on the gun as you run in the raid, and then you're switching to a smaller. Think about how much that changes what the M4 meta is.
Or even just like sorry to cut you off again. The drum mags are just like have a higher chance to jam than a regular
100%.
mag. That would just
and I agree with that.
It'd be such a risk reward thing, you know, like because right now, like the ergo penalty, I've seen people run around with 0 ergo essays on labs, and like, yes, it's no big deal. So clearly the ergo system isn't working, but
and different weapon systems have different ways of dealing with jams. Like an M4 is when you have a malfunction in it, they're super easy to clear.
Oh, really? I thought they were more
complicated. That's what they're designed. I mean, you got to remember, guys, the M4s are designed to work with 18-year-olds that have never seen a gun in their entire life. That's what they're designed for. And the systems, you literally, in the Marine Corps, they train people how to use them from nothing to expert within a week. And you go through, there's drills that you do for clearing malfunctions and stuff like that. Now, other guns that if you have a malfunction in, like an MDR, for example, when that thing jams, I about have to take the damn thing apart to get it opened up and taken care of. Whereas an M4, there's a couple of malfunctions that are a little bit more complicated. But the ditty in the Marine Corps is literally tap, rack, bang. If you have a malfunction, you tap the mag, you rack another round, you pull the trigger. You know, that's one of the malfunction clearing systems that there's others in there, you know, that's things like the forward assist and stuff like that. But some guns, when they jam, it doesn't even matter. Like an AK, like it could jam and rack another round in it. And so that's more in depth that you can get with the jamming system. Is some guns, if they jam, it doesn't matter. It might, you jam and however they jig it up in the game, whatever button you have to hit, Control J or whatever to unjam, to do your malfunction check to unjam it. You know, a gun like a M4 might take a second, an AK takes a second, an M4 takes a second and a half, but then you get something complicated like a MDR or an SA-58. I don't know the mechanics of an SA-58 really well and what clearing one would be, but at the end of the day, that's another risk reward. You could have this epic gun that's super amazing, like a Vector, but if it jams, you're hose bagged.
Yeah.
You might as well You might as well start beating them over the head with a gun if it's going to jam.
I mean, you could even extend the durability system to mags.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so much they could do for sure.
A fresh 60, it's all good. The durability starts going down, and it's going to jam much quicker than a 30.
Yeah.
There's so much they could do.
And then just the whole thing with the rigs, not being able to put. I didn't think about that till I was sitting here looking at your stream beef, and I see my rig sitting behind me and the D60 sitting behind me, and I'm like, holy shit! I've never thought about this. This would be something they could change in the game. That would, try it for 2 weeks. Make it to where you can't put a drum or a mega mag in all but very, very specific rigs. Like an M1 rig has that big pouch on the side, right? So sure, maybe you could put a bigger mag in there, but even a D6, it slows down your reload period. It's not a quick reload. It's got a 20% or 30% de-reload buffer, even a 50%, because you're fishing around in a bag trying to get out versus your real quick, reload out of a rig, which is what it's designed. And all of a sudden, you make good mags good again.
I think all the drums should be a 2x2, personally, kind of no matter what size. I think they all should be, just to limit the number that you can take with you and to make you think about your gear choices a bit more. Because this is the thing, right? It's like what I don't like, and this is a general point, right? I don't like it when there really is no choice at all. It's like
Yeah,
the 30
I
and the
agree.
60s are the same slot.
There's
There's
a
no
meta.
choice there.
There's a
Yeah,
meta.
and
Period.
there's a meta, and it's like it's also like it's solved too, right? It's just like this is clearly better than this. There's no choice there. I like having, even at the top end, there to be a variety of things that you can choose and say, well, I can do this, but you know. And they started to put that in because of the ergo system is now much more penalizing. But yeah, as Church pointed out, a lot of people just kind of point sheet these things and ignore it.
Right.
So having that choice is like, yeah, you can do this, but yeah, you can only have one, maybe two, if you pick the right rig, and you're going to have a slower reload, something like that. And I think like just having more choices, and more choices that are actual real choices as opposed to just kind of like fake choices because it's so clear cut what the answer
Right.
is, make the game more interesting, and it makes it more enjoyable because then again it enhances different play styles. And it's interesting because I really like playing with 30 rounders. There's a lot of stuff in the game that I actually just like. I kind of like doing it because of the things that I like to do, not necessarily because they're good. It's like I don't really like using flashlights to like shine people in the eye, and I don't really like using 60 round mags. I don't know. It's just the feel. I just don't like it that much. I prefer using 30s. I think it feels cooler, and I like using lasers, but not flashlights. And it's just
Plus
that's
two.
the way it is.
Plus 2 the
100%.
cool points.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other day, I'm doing it. It's kind of memeing. I'm doing it for content, but I also do it. It's fun too to do on stream. Is I have a PP that I take the wooden stock. I put that wooden stock, the AK wooden foregrip on it, and I put a wooden grip on the PP, and I call it the morning wood. And so you run around shoreline and you kill somebody with that thing, and it's a PP-19, man. It's not good. I mean, it is good, but it's not like I'm running around with a metal weapon. And just the jokes that come out of it, the prepubescent freaking dick jokes of, you know, I poked him with my morning wood, you know, things like that. You know, that I have a great deal of fun doing that. I am running and I have gotten every one of those back.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to touch my PP.
Endless content right there.
So I always get it back. And I wish sometimes it would, like, I want somebody like Landmark or a streamer to kill me so I can see on their channel the reaction when they open up my inventory and they're like, what in the fuck is this?
It's the hipster foregrip, the wooden stock that no one uses. I love it.
So it's there's stuff like that you're saying that the choice isn't really there, Giga Beef. We impose the choice on ourselves, but if you want to run at the top tier of the game, this is what you have to do to be competitive most of the time. I mean, I tell people all the time, the most devastating weapon in Tarkov is knowledge.
100%.
Period. And there isn't anybody in the world that can. It's such a damning statement. I don't like making definitive statements, but you cannot prove that wrong. That has been proven hand downs time over time that knowledge wins. I run into kids all the time that are way, way better shooter players than me mechanically. Because again, I'm old and I beat them consistently because I outthink them, or I know where to move on a map, or I know what sounds do on specific maps. I mean, I remember a lot of people think a factory is this horrifying, scary place to go in. I literally run around a factory like an idiot with no headset and an Alta and an Ash 12 and wipe 4-mans, like geared 4-mans. Because you know where people are going to be. You know how long it takes. If they're not here, they've got to be there. Yeah. Like my favorite thing in the world is to spawn in forklifts and come out and not hear a peep. No footsteps, no shots, no nothing. Because I'm like, ooh, there's a 4-man on the other side.
There's a squad in the office.
Exactly. And so the knowledge of the game is more important than anything else. But at the same time, I wish it was more consequential to the choices you made in the game with the gear you brought in, more than it is now. Just like you said at the start of the wipe. That's why the wipe matters, is because at the start of the game, it's everything matters.
Yeah.
Well, we got a little guest here, guys. We got another guest on the show. Come here, sweetie.
Yeah.
You want to sit up here with me? A sucker.
It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I know. You didn't kiss anybody, did you?
No.
Okay, good.
Good to know. Good to know.
So when you get into that early wipe phase and you try to think, I think that's probably one of the best ways that I hope that BSG looks at it and they say, okay, what makes early wipe so amazing?
Yeah.
And how do we stretch that to the rest of the game? How do we make that consistent?
Yes.
And I think that's an
true.
awesome path to go down.
Yeah. I mean, even just like I just think that some of the stuff from the traders should be taken away a bit, and that more stuff should just be like, found in weapons boxes and that kind of thing. I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good for the game.
Make the like the MK18 being behind a really shitty task. You know how much it sucks to kill Sturman 25 times?
Probably a lot.
That's an awesome way to make that gun less available. On top of the fact that the ammo is impossible to get.
Yeah.
Do that with, you could think about the Vector. That you can trade for one Vector, not every cycle, but once a day. And it's a barter. And it's some shitty barter. Like 3 military circuit boards. Like it costs $200K to get the Vector. And then it doesn't matter. You don't have to balance the ammo. You don't have to make the ammo 10 bazillion rubles.
Just a small rant.
Which doesn't gatekeep the end game players anyways. Because you know how many times I go in and I buy 2 million rubles worth of MK18 AP ammo and I don't even blink.
Yeah.
36K, 5 stacks of 36K, 150,000 5 stacks of ammo. Cause that's usually it's in 4 or 5 or 3 stacks on the flea market. I don't care. I go in and buy fucking 60 rounds of the AP stuff. It doesn't stop me from running the gun. I don't even blink at it because I can make the money back. All that does is make lower level players impossible to get to it. You have to do something to make it hard for end game players to get
exactly.
stuff.
They need to focus making the game harder for the top, in my opinion, and then make the game.
It's already dick punching hard for the bottom.
Right. So.
We've talked about this quite a lot on in some of the other stuff that we've done as well, and it's like pushing stuff further up the trader queues and things. Just all that does is help players at the top, right? It's like you need some way of making it, as you say, right? Putting it behind 25 Sturman kills or something like that's really, really difficult. It means that a lot of people aren't going to do it unless you really put in a lot of work, and then it's going to be hardly anybody who actually goes and does that. But when you do,
now you can buy the gun versus the barter, right?
Yeah, and if you kill someone with it, it's like it's actually exciting.
Dude, this is an actually super awesome idea. And it's not unlocked for the rest of the wipe, right? So like let's say you've got to go kill Reshala in I call it Alamo, but Fortress, whatever, the new area, new construction, whatever people call it. You got to kill Reshala in Alamo 5 times. And now you have access to said gun, whether it's the Vector or whatever it is. But that's only good for 2 weeks.
Oh.
And then 2 weeks after that, a new task shows up. Sorry, the Vector's out. You guys got to do this for me before I'm willing to give it to you again. And that they could make the decision. Okay, we're looking at the data in the game. Woods doesn't get any action here, or this doesn't get any action there. And it doesn't have to be kill. It could be go get me an item from this part of the map 5 times. You've got to go here and plant, and then you've got to go get this item. Kind of like what's it called? Goofball.
He's still in the
kind
show.
Kind of like you have to do with what is it where you got to collect all the shit for Peacekeeper spot tour. You have to go in over and over and over again to resort to the point where that's just mind numbing. That one's too much, but make it to where you have to go to the UN camp that forward operating base on Woods 3 times in 3 different raids. And then you can unlock the Vector, and it's still behind level 3 skier or whatever it may be. And you can only buy 1 a day, but in order to get to that point, you have to, do this task. And then it's only good for a week, or it's only good for 2 weeks. And you could really dial in the difficulty doing that and make it to where you have this content that lasts in the game for a while.
Yeah, see, Chad's saying like, I can already hear the casuals reeing about this suggestion, but I think like you'd make this stuff just for like the top end things, right? Like nobody needs to use the Vector. No one needs to use it, right? You can be successful in the game without using the Vector. I think it's just like it locks away some of the harder things. And I've spoken about this before as well, just in terms of do you want your economy to be fully connected, or do you want there to be breaks that in there on purpose? Things like could you sell 50 crappy AKs and buy a Mark 18 for it? Or, you know, in a system like you're saying, no matter how many AKs you have, you can't do that because you have to do this quest first, right? And there's like there's a break there. Because right now with the flea market and having everything available on the flea market, you can just stockpile crap and sell enough of it and you can buy good stuff. Whereas like I feel like it's better if there's some kind of, you know, there's a break there somewhere where you have to do something different. And again, it forces people to go and do something. And it also kind of gives you, you know, it's like, well, maybe I don't want to use the Vector, so I'm not going to bother going and doing that. But maybe the next time it's like, oh, well, I do want to use XYZ sniper rifle. And so I will actually go and do the task this time. And it drives people to then like go and do something different and actually have to try rather than just like, oh, this new thing's been unlocked and now I'm just going to throw more money at it and then I can run whatever I like. It kind of provides endgame players with things to do as well, which has been another problem about not everybody is, you know, a self-directed content creator, you know, creating moments, but some people want stuff to be given to them to do.
Yeah. And I would say that most players, that's the whole point of a game. That's like saying, well, come up with your own content. And I say this to guys all the time to give them a hard time. I was like, well, create your own task, make your own task in the game. And the argument is that was like, I'm playing a fucking game for a reason, guys. That's like saying, well, you want to play a game? Go make your own game up. Well, Jesus Christ, I paid you guys to give me a game that's entertaining, keep making them entertaining. You cannot, and then I'm just going to go play something else.
I think there's also like an element of that of just kind of like, you know, it's like Stockholm syndrome or whatever. You've been like locked in Tarkov and Nikita doing all these awful tasks, and then they just finish, and you're like, but now that I've done them all, I actually really enjoyed doing it, even though I hated it at the time. But now I want more. Now I want more of it. I'm like Pavlov's dog or whatever. Like I've been trained to do tasks. Now what?
Beat me more, daddy.
Exactly.
But see, what's interesting too is some games that are, I would say, similar to Tarkov. Like a game that comes to mind is Rust. And I really hate to bring up Rust because last night I was talking with some buddies. We were talking about how much we hate Rust and we'll never get into it again. But there's no quests in that game, and they're actually at some point they were talking about adding a quest system, but it's all like player driven activities, like quests. Like you have like these things you need to do to progress or to like, you know, get resources so you can do this, or I mean, it's probably a lot of nuances to it.
That's essentially what Eve is, right? When you look at Eve, I mean, the entire mechanics of the game are completely player driven.
Yeah, which is great because then I feel like if they pushed in that direction, you would have endless content. They wouldn't have to constantly sit there, look at the numbers, and tweak stuff every 5 minutes when you know.
You don't want to give me control over determining what people are going to do in game. I can tell you that right now. I can tell you that right now. You don't want to give me control over people's destinies because it would be. I would be setting people up to do shooterborn and have. I mean, the jokes we make about Jaeger tasks would be real. No mag, you got no mag and an EBL shooting TPZ rounds, and you got to get a headshot at power station from resort, and that's it. That's it, guys. You got to do that.
While jumping off the car, doing a 360 no scope. Yeah. Right.
I can feel it. Tesla will have it done within about 3 hours.
Yeah, if not quicker.
Yeah. All right. I think we're well.
Wouldn't have been overtime, did we? Yeah.
Just a bit, but we had a great time.
Yeah,
so.
we did.
I could fucking talk about Tarkov forever, dude. Even playing that stupid Valheim game last night where I was talking about Tarkov.
You can never
mostly because I felt like I was cheat. I was like that's the first time I felt like I was calling out sick on work in a long time, because I was like I just dropped everything because Tarkov, you know, the server shit the bed. I was right in the middle of doing research for my next video, and I'm like, you know what it's like. You guys know what it's like when you're like you're 95% there and you're ready to shoot. Like you've done all the hard work, but you're just like, I don't want to make the video right now. Like it's only an hour's worth of work, but it just feels like that last ball and chain little bit you got to get done. And that's where I'm at with that video when the servers crashed, which just completely ruined any chance. And then I open up this brand new Valheim game where I can build and collect resources, and you know, and then it was 5 a.m.
Yeah. Just like, oh, the lizard part of my brain is being scratched, and why is it light outside? I've definitely had that before.
Close the blinds.
It's a good time. I do love to get
Well-
absorbed into something like that. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on again. I
Thank
love
you
talking
for
Tarkov.
coming, dude.
Yeah, we
Always an
changed the
honor.
format up a bit, so it's mostly Church is doing. He's the brains behind the operation, but
Mhm.
so it's been a good time to have you on, and congratulations again on your
Yeah.
excellent growth on YouTube so far.
Yeah,
It's
appreciate
very
it,
well
man.
deserved.
We'll see what we can pull off in February here. We've slowed down quite a bit, but it's kind of still hard to complain about growing pretty good.
Exactly.
Where can people find your channel at?
So it's youtube.com/AirWingMarine. Same thing with Twitch. Twitter, I think, is AirWingMarine1 or something. I just use Twitter to do announcements. I don't do too much on it. I'm on Reddit, but that place scares me. I don't play in Reddit all that much. That's like the dark alley in the back of Chinatown. I just won't go there. I don't know. I don't speak the language and I don't know the culture, and I'm just gonna stay away. So feel free
Very
to come
wise.
check the content and
Very wise.
say hi.
All right,
Cool.
guys. Well,
All right.
catch you next week. Have a
Say
good
bye,
night,
Wrap
girls.
this one up.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, yeah.